I'm going to give a little bit of history first about us. My name's Caitlin Givens, and I'm from Laurel, Delaware. I'm married to my husband, Scott Givens, who's a farmer with his brother, and then my sister-in-law, his wife. We're in kind of this whole farm thing together, and we have a produce stand off of Woodland Ferry Road in Laurel that we've been very successful at. And the boys started it when they were preteens, and it was just a little cart that they grew vegetables in their garden, and now it's really become, for a roadside stand, I think really successful. So when the wives per se got into it, we kind of have made a lot of changes and really different things to, like the Facebook page and different things to really reach out to the community. We do little newsletters and things like that so people kind of know what's going on. And we always wanted to have a second location, so we had this opportunity that came to us. And in our area, there's a lot of farm stands around. So Millsboro, on Route 20 there's really not much there. And so when this opportunity came to us, we thought, well, really, there's really nothing else around. Let's try it. So right now, we're renting this building, and it started out with obviously nothing inside. All that was there was some tin on the walls and some barn wood. So that's what we had to start with. My dad actually just retired from the Postal Service, and so in February he started, he has built everything inside, and in a minute we'll take a look at some pictures. But we kind of know the produce business. My husband and his brother grow vegetables, so our main crops are watermelons, corn, soybeans, and wheat. But then we do this, we do produce items, obviously, you know, your tomato, squash, zucchini, all that stuff. But I had a little bit more of a vision. I wanted to do more gift items and baked goods and things like that, but I didn't want it to be your typical farm stand like you see on Route 50 in Salisbury. I wanted it to be a little bit different. So one night I sat down and I did a blueprint and I drew everything out. No one else had any ideas, so I said, well, I'll be the one to come up with the ideas. So I sat down, drew the picture that I wanted our sign to be, did the outside of the building, put everything inside how I wanted to draw. Now Pinterest, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Pinterest, but that had a lot of ideas on there that I came up with. And so we just opened on April 30th, and we had our grand opening. And we have, obviously, the only local produce that we have right now is strawberries. Our watermelons are actually coming from some of our friends that are farmers in Florida. They ship them they ship them to New Jersey, and then we pick them up from New Jersey. Our broker actually has a facility up there, and that's how we obtain those. But other than that, we will start having local produce as it starts to come in. But that's one big thing that people like is local produce. We also have things like brown eggs and just some specialty items. We also have canned goods. Now, originally my thought was, oh, this would be wonderful because I can make all this stuff and we can sell it. Well, I got it's called it's called a cottage kitchen law is what Delaware Department of Ag has, and you can go to a class and apply for that and everything. So I have that license to do that. But once I got into it and saw exactly how much I would have to be making of all this canned stuff, my ideas quickly changed. And so I noticed that a lot of these other farm stands, they were using these co-packagers. So that's what we've decided to go with, is a co-packager in Maryland, and they do put your own labels on, and they can use your recipes. So that's what we decided to do. It's not our produce that's being used in that, but when you have to make something in those large amounts, you can't. It's really unreasonable to do that. So I'm going to go through a few pictures here. This is our sign. They just did put up that sign this past week. So that's our sign out by the road, and then these are just some front porch pictures that we have. I went to school in the South, in college in the South, so I'm very big on like ferns and things like that. So a lot of farm stands don't have all that kind of stuff, and I wanted black rocking chairs. So actually, this is one little idea. So this isn't just a quart. Well, first of all, so my brown eggs aren't just sold in an egg carton. You know, I wanted to really do something unique. So I said, well, we can put them in quart baskets. And then I said, well, why not put a label on them? And so I thought this was really cute. You know, you put the farm stand label on there. So everything kind of has its own little touch. This is actually another story for another day. We have a friend that's a race car driver, and anyway, so he brought his car the other day, so that was a little promotion thing. These were stuck for Mother's Day. We stuck these little flowers in our flowers, and it's just like from your little sprout, best mom ever, things like that. So this was our little ad that we did for, well, where'd it go? That we did for nurses. So last week was Nurses Week. We did 10% off, and only because we're just starting out, we weren't going to do like 20% off or something, so we just did like 10% off your purchases that week. We also did a teacher thing the week before. Show your teacher ID and you'll get 10% off. So we did like the little apple flag. And then, so this is inside. So we do have some flags. We've got our canned goods. We've got some decorative items. We have lots and lots of flowers, planted stuff, potted stuff, and some of our geraniums, the outside. We have wreaths. I know I'm going through these a little quick. There's the front of the building with our strawberries. We usually put whatever we're featuring. So like right now we have strawberries out front. And I don't know if you can see, but we have like combination baskets. So I did like strawberries I made little strawberry shortcakes to pair with the strawberries so that people could just take those right home and make strawberry shortcake. So those have been a really popular thing that's selling. And then now we've got peaches out there with peach cobbler, and we have little containers of peach cobbler and strawberry cobbler. So I'll go through these quickly before I run out of time. These are our vegetable baskets and fruit baskets that we have available. And we pair dressings because we also have salad dressings and things like that. And that was a little ad that we put on there, that people can come right in there and purchase the fruit baskets and vegetable baskets for gifts, and we'll tie them up. And that's our fruit section. That's our little refrigerated section there. And I think I'm about out of time.
Really easy to want to look at all those photographs because I was even lost track of time myself watching all that. So really, really, really cute.
Thank
All
you.
right, the questions now come from you, and comments. Who would like to start?
Well, thank you very much for coming and presenting, and your creativity is paid off pretty well, I'd say.
Yes.
So you started with a blank sheet and put this package together for others,
Yes.
I assume. That.
Yes.
And did I see that a date of April the 30th
April 30th was our grand opening.
was your
Yes.
grand opening on April the 30th?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right into, obviously, the early part of this season. And what did you say you had available now?
So right now we basically have everything available. Squash, zucchini, cucumbers, blueberries, strawberries, peaches, string beans, corn, asparagus, lettuces, cabbage, carrots, all your potatoes, onions, apples, bananas, oranges.
So you're fully stocked.
Yeah,
in
we're
other
fully
words, as
stocked, just not with local produce, obviously, right now.
All right. Where's this Givens come from?
So that's our last name, and I was trying to think of a quirky way, instead of saying like the Givens farm stand or the Givens market, I wanted to do something different. So I said at the Givenses.
Well, I like
And
that.
I'm a little bit of a grammar freak, so it didn't. You couldn't put apostrophe s, and you couldn't leave it with no apostrophe at the at the end. So if you say at the Givenses, it needs apostrophe at the end. So it's a little annoying that apostrophe's there, but it had to be for grammatical purposes.
I probably didn't catch that whole tie because I was obviously doing
You're
something
fine.
else when I came back in. But I like the whole thought of saying it at the Givens because it gets back to my directions. I was starting to worry. I didn't think I knew how to get to the Givens.
Well, and we were going to put because there's a pond right there in Millsboro, so we're going to be at and then I thought, well, no, somehow we got to have our name in it. So that's where I came up with at the Givenses. And it's not really our farm or anything, but we thought if we ever expanded somewhere near our home, we could keep that same name and do it there, a second location. So
I like that too.
Yeah.
Conceptually, that's very good.
yeah.
I'm a little concerned about your business plan between the produce and it looks like an awful lot of other items that you expect to sell, and the mix would kind of concern me as to how many of these am I going to have to sell versus how many of this am I going to have to sell to make my business plan. Have you actually investigated to the point I'd like to really move this much merchandise, this type of merchandise versus this type of produce?
Yeah, we actually, so the reason we put in those merchandise items were basically to get, people in Millsboro, there's really no kind of gift shops or anything. So that was our idea. That wasn't per se our money maker. That was our kind of drawing point, was to add those extra things in. But honestly, we have sold out of so many of our canned goods already, and that was within the first 4 days. So, and I'm talking, we have to buy a minimum of 12 cases at a time of things. So we had started out with like 17 cases of items that were in cases of 12. So we had sold out of some of that by that first weekend. So I've already had to put in 3 more orders since April 30th. So the canned goods have really taken off. And then our flags, like I said, that was more of just a kind of a thing for women, because they like that kind of stuff. We like that kind of stuff. So that kind of decoration stuff and the flowers, especially for Mother's Day, we started out between potted plants, hanging baskets. We started out with 75 different items. And by that first week, I had to go and we had to fully restock that. So we really, between the flowers and the flags and the canned goods, that's really added to our business a lot. So we didn't look for it to take off that well, but it really has. So we're really happy about that. Yeah.
Does your supplier stock that for you? When you're out, you're out. But when you're out, you're losing a sale. So my question is your inventory pipeline from your supplier good enough to keep feeding that type of?
Yes. So we actually, to keep track of our inventory, we have what's called a clover. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's like a cube, like the Apple iPad cube, where you can swipe credit cards and stuff. But I don't have a picture of it on here, but it looks like an iPad. But it's a clover, and it's through PNC Bank. It keeps track of everything, all the business things that you need, and inventory reporting, all that kind of stuff. So we're able to look in there each week and see what we're getting, and anything that we're down below 6 of, we put that in as a new order. And so, yeah, they're able to keep us stocked.
Well, that's very important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quote unquote retailers that don't have that sophistication
Right.
as far as inventory management, and that's always been a concern of mine, is inventory management in general, and knowing what you've got and what your reorder point should be.
Yep.
Correct?
And it also shows on there, my husband was just looking last night, we actually have sold more strawberry, in dollar amount, we've sold more strawberries than watermelons, which is interesting. But, so you can see on there exactly how much of each thing you've sold. and also what's been the most popular. So as far as like our canned goods, we can see on there, how many times we've restocked and what has been our key sellers there. And actually the clover for other businesses, I don't know if you guys want to keep this in mind, but it's through PNC Bank, and it's very, very reasonable. You rent it per se, because to buy it, there's so many upgrades and stuff to it, it's really not worth it. But you rent it, and so it's only per month. So if a business didn't thrive or didn't do well, they could cancel it. But it's very reasonable per month. And the interest, now there's some rates and stuff on it, depending on like how well you do with it and stuff. Like the credit card sales, it automatically takes out. Like there's certain percentage of different things that it takes out for you, but it's very reasonable. So for other businesses, I would certainly recommend it because it's been very helpful for us. And it's the credit card swipe and everything right on there.
So it's technically a point of sale tool,
Yes.
correct?
That's exactly
In
what
other
it is.
words, it degrades the inventory once you make that sale.
Yep.
Well, that's and you're saying the term is clover?
Clover, Clover. Yep.
Well, a lot of us ought to take that
Yeah, and
away
it's
from this presentation.
Yeah, it's really nice because we can log in right at home and file. Like if I'm not there at the store, I can log right in at home or on my cell phone and see, okay, we've done this many transactions today and we've done this much in dollar sales. I can even click on each sale and it'll bring up the order details. Because if I'm out and need to I need to pick up more strawberries, I can say, well, we also have a camera system too that we can see everything that's going on. So I can see, well, we're low on this and, we might need to do this. Obviously, I could call too, but it's easy for me to just pipeline into that Clover and see that.
Well, you certainly sound like a model business from startup. You really have gone a long way. And the only other request that I have of you, if you're interested in making pies, I cannot find anyone that's making enough pies in this area. And back in Virginia, pies were a main draw for an operation like you have, by the way.
Yes, and I actually went to school in Southern Virginia, and that's one of the things. There were some farm stands kind of like that. I had my idea here, and that's kind of where I kind of got my ideas from. And we're actually trying to find someone because our baked goods, we're selling out of them so fast that between me and my family, we can't. I mean, I'm a registered nurse, so I work night shift, and we have a little 10-month-old, so it's busy enough with us and trying to keep all that stocked. Even dog bones. We have dog bones for sale. My mom has made, I want to say, 10 batches of dog bones, and a batch makes 36. And we go through these dog bones every week. So she's constantly having to make 2 and 3 batches a week. So we're looking for someone who can supply us with. My husband and I were just talking. Is there someone who could make pies and all this stuff? I thought maybe about the Amish market or something like that, because it's just really, we really are having trouble keeping up with that part of it with our own lives. So
sounds like you've got a lot of busy things going on.
Yeah.
Mike mentioned he was a little concerned about the additional things that you were carrying in your farm market, more on the gift end. And I'm going to speak to that because that's what my background. I had a gift shop for about 30 years. It was pretty successful. And I think you've already demonstrated that if you're taking the things that complement what you're doing or can add to that, I think that will be, first of all, it will give you a competitive advantage. Yeah. And that sometimes will be the stuff that will be your bread and butter that day when other things are slow.
Right.
Or it could be the one that, I just need some tomatoes. I don't need anything else. Do I really stop? No, I think I'll drive by. Oh, no, I think I'll come in and see what she's got new.
Yep. Yep.
So that could be a draw for you.
Yeah.
Also, if you'll, afterwards, if you'll connect with me, I can perhaps help you connect with some wholesalers that could provide and augment your inventory that way.
Okay.
You mentioned something else a minute ago, and I'll have to come back to it because I've forgotten.
Okay.
Who else would like to?
Let me just tell you that your ideas worked. I drove by the other day and I saw the farm stand. I seen the one that was there before, but this one kind of just drew us to it. And I just had a question. You mentioned that you and your family are doing this together, but it was more of your idea.
Uh-huh.
Did you encounter any resistance with any of them that were maybe thinking that your idea wasn't going to work, or that they didn't want to go in that direction? And how did you overcome that?
I like to say my mind goes a million miles a minute, and sometimes people think I'm crazy because what goes on in my mind sometimes scares me. So I've always been very creative though, and I'm one of those that with school projects, like it had to be how I wanted it. No one else's ideas, but how I wanted it. And that's a problem because you have group projects. That's why I despised group projects. But I worked very well with others, and my husband and my in-laws, they just don't, I hate to say it, but they just don't have that creative mind. And so I really I didn't meet any resistance per se. We just kind of waited for their ideas, and when it was time, my husband said, well, does anyone else have any ideas? And everybody just kind of looked around. So I said, well, here's my ideas, and I had 5 pages worth of stuff, and so we just kind of went with it. Now, there was a little discussion on the name that we chose, the farm stand at the Givenses. There was a little bit discussion there. But I kind of felt like if I had drew all that stuff up and come up with all that stuff, that what name I picked should go. So I kind of stood firm on that and finally did get that my way. But there was a little bit of discussion about that. But no resistance, just discussion.
Thank you.
I see another hand over here. Come back in a minute.
Just a great, you're just doing it. You do all the things that make girls like me
Yes.
want to buy stuff.
Yeah. That's how I try to think, like, if I went into a store, what I would want to see. So,
Well, I was thinking on your apostrophe, you could make it into something cute, like a jalapeno pepper or something like that.
that would be cute. Yes. Yeah.
But my question has to do with more of a plan for your profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you've got some kind of goal in mind as to making money on this.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, it's really important to look at that profit goal at the head of the game, because you do run the risk of running your business according to what you've got in the bank or how you did that season, as opposed to how that fits into your savings for whatever purposes, your taxes that you're going to have to pay. And I think other than the costs that you have for your products, which I'm assuming you're marking up and making a margin on them, how have you decided to structure kind of your running of the place so that you're sure that at the end of the day you have something to save or to put towards your children's education or whatever you're doing all this work for?
Right. So I guess, my husband, I've been with my husband for 12 years now, and being a farmer, you know that some years just aren't profitable. So that's one thing that he's very keen on, and we are very good about putting money away, and we have a lot of money we have money that we put away each season for that, because not every season is profitable. So with his business knowledge and that's kind of what we're planning on doing here. Now, obviously, we've had to put a lot of money into this to begin with, as far as just kind of supplies and that type of thing to get started with. So I guess just our idea right now is, because we have employees and everything, obviously, to pay each week, too. So we're just really staying, we've had to put in our own money to start this off, obviously. So we're just kind of staying on that line as we're putting money away and really watching everything very closely. And he's kind of on that end. He doesn't like to necessarily do much of the stuff at the market, but at home he's constantly got the numbers running and everything. So that's kind of where he's.
But this was not your first market, correct?
No.
So you have
So we
experience
have
there.
we have the farm, we have the produce stand in Laurel. So we've really been able to run the numbers and everything. And Now, one difference we do have at this market is we're doing most things by pounds. Not strawberries, not watermelons, not blueberries, not lettuces, but everything else is by pound, which I don't like that because I just feel like I like things by quart. That's how we have it at our produce stand, $3 a quart for this, but near the beach and everything, that's what a lot of people have gone to, and even in the grocery store, things are by the pound. One thing we did learn quickly the first week was the scale that we have that hooks into the clover that automatically calculates, you put it on there and it calculates how much it should be based on what you've put into what you've put in for the price per pound. It comes up on the side so your customers can see it as well as you, but we also needed a scale that they could see before they got up there to that cash register. Because, in fact, a lot of people guess how much things are going to weigh. So they'll only get 1 tomato or 2 tomatoes, but really when they get up there, it's not even a full pound. So that's one thing that we have ordered and is coming, because I think it's only fair. You don't want them to get up there and kind of be blown away when they get up there for the pound. So that's something different.
We're starting to run out of time. Go ahead.
I guess the biggest challenge of your business is seasonal. This business is seasonal. So, do you have any plan for winter? Are you gonna stay open?
So right now we're at least going to go through the fall and have Mum's pumpkins. That's what we already have at our stand in Laurel, and there is talk that we may go into like Christmas trees and maybe do like a whole take all the produce out inside but change it into like a Christmas shop where we do all kinds of like Christmas ornaments and stuff, because there's really again not anything like that around that area. There is talk about that. Now, whether that will be this year, I don't know. My husband really wants it to be, but my in-laws are actually expecting in September, and we have a little girl. So I think maybe this Christmas, maybe not. We might just kind of, because even in the off season, we do a lot. So I think this Christmas we may just get through those 3 months and not really do anything, close it down, and then maybe next year do the Christmas shop or something like that. And again, when you don't have a drawing point with the produce, I don't really know if it would thrive. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I'm a little antsy about it, but eventually we do want to do something like that. And eventually we want to do something where if that really wasn't profitable, we could still have it and still be open, and at least it would, it would be something to do during that time. So I don't know yet.
Well, baby steps are definitely good when it comes to business.
Yes.
Before I ask the final question, I want to encourage both of our speakers to come back and visit, because I was just thinking just a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had a presenter who actually is using, plans to use a co-packer, and it's so sometimes when you make connections like that, if something doesn't work out with the one, or you don't like the one that you are considering, you've got another lead, and
Right.
might have a reference and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I'm sure we could probably talk for the next half hour
Yeah.
or so, but we want to conclude today by asking you, what can we as a community do to support you?
If you could really just spread the word and really, like she said earlier, advertise for us, because one thing is when you're coming from the beach towards Millsboro, there's a big double billboard that sticks up, and you can't quite see it until you've almost already passed us. So that's something, so if you can really, tell people, hey, there's a farm stand. It's right outside of the town of Millsboro on your way to the beach. And plus the detour, that's something else. There's a detour there these last 2 weeks. Right after we opened, they had this detour. So anyway, so we're hoping when the beach traffic comes and everything. But so far, so good, I guess.
Well, we wish you much luck and
Thank
success,
you.
and we'll be stopping in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.